Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Sheikh Lotfi Djafar. I have a question to ask you. What does Islam say about protests, riots, demonstrations in general, whether in Muslim countries or in non-Muslim countries, for example, in America or UK? What's a Muslim stance on this matter? Can we protest or not? Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. May Allah bless you and preserve you. Ameen.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. The question is it allowed to protest or do riots or demonstration? We've got to differentiate between peaceful protest and riots. Riots is violence and disturbance, is absolutely disallowed in Islam and haram, okay? But what we are talking about in here is the so-called peaceful protest. Is it allowed or not allowed in Islam? Alhamdulillah, often people they protest because they think they're oppressed or wronged or anything similar to that. Some of them might be right, yes, they were oppressed, they were wronged by their leaders or whoever wronged them. But the principle in here is you can never solve a problem by creating another. Often these protests and demonstrations begin peacefully, and unfortunately they end up in violence. They end up in what? In violence. Imam Ibn Uthaymeen rahimahullah, he was asked this question, is he allowed to peacefully protest? He says, عَلَيْكَ بِاتِّبَاعِ السَّلَفِ, you must follow the way of our Salaf, our predecessors, the Sahaba, the followers of the Sahaba, and the followers of the followers of the Sahaba, i.e. the first three generations of Islam, which are the best generations ever. وَلِلَّهِ الْحَمْدُ. He says, if they did it, then it's okay. If they did not, then it is evil. And of course they did not, therefore it is evil. The harm it brings is way more than the benefit it brings, if it does bring any benefits at all. إخوة الإيمان والإسلام, often when some Muslims go protesting, they call for democracy. And we know that democracy is absolutely against Islam. So you are contradicting yourself. You're trying to be a practicing Muslim, you're trying to be a good Muslim, you ask whether I'm allowed to protest or not. But when you go protesting out of excitement and you lose control, you start uttering statements which they can lead to disbelief. وَلَا حَوْلَ وَلَا قُوَّةَ إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ. May Allah guide us and guide all the Muslims. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. Of course, some rulers and some leaders are oppressive, and they're wrong, and they wrong their people, but this does not mean you rebel against them and you go protesting and violent and cause this fitna. You can always advise them wisely. You can make your word reach them wisely. Write a letter, speak to the people of knowledge. The scholars are able to sit down and talk to them and advise them and make them aware of their wrongs and their misguidance. So that's the best way you get to them, through the scholars of Islam. They should be advised. No one is perfect. Perfection belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. As I said, often this protesting ends up in violence, stealing, breaking and burning cars, conflicts between the police, the state and the public. And I am not surprised that sometimes these protests and demonstrations are set as plots by unseen mafia and criminals. They create this in order to do what they are plotting to do for their own benefits. Therefore, as a wise Muslim, you should not join any demonstrations or any riots or any protest, even if they claim it is peaceful. It is not from the Sunnah, it is not from Islam, and it is not from the teachings of our scholars or our Salaf al-Salih, rahimahumullah ajma'in. So I highly advise you and advise every Muslim to stay away from from these actions. Barakallahu feekum wa hayyakumullah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bring peace and safety to every Muslim land, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us reach His pleasures and make us die upon the sunnah of our Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.